was a briefing in Parliament today by the Social Development Department on its plan to help stop incidents of gender-based violence, or, I'm supposed to put it more accurately, to stop incidents in which men attack women. You know how big this problem is, how many women are attacked by men and often lose their lives. Anele Mda is an activist against gender, as a gender activist. She joins me now. Anele, good afternoon to you. I hate to start in such a cynical way, but do you think Parliament is taking this issue seriously enough? We've had debates, we've had promises of action. Do you think they're taking it seriously enough?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers. You know, it's such a painful thing every year when we have to talk about issues of gender-based violence, because we effectively speak about the same thing over and over and over again. And zooming straight into your question, it's a pity that Parliament, which is an institution that has got majority of its members being females, does not seem to grasp the importance of how much it needs to take the issue of gender-based violence seriously. I mean, you will remember that as far back as the SONA of 2019, that is last year, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that there is going to be a revision or a review of bills that are going to enable all state organs to ensure that they fast track and also the successful prosecutions in as far as gender-based violence cases are concerned. But fast forward to today, we do not have any of those things. I mean, Minister Ronald Lamula went as well in February this year to announce that there's going to be 3 bills that are going to be introduced, which are going to empower, you know, the Department of Correctional Services as well as NPA and SAPS to have you know, all wheels into attending to issues of gender-based violence. But sadly, we are still standing where we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and 2 months ago. There is no change because, Stephen, there is no willingness, there is no intentional, there's no deliberate or leadership that wants to end the scourge of gender-based violence in South Africa.
I mean, the current sexual offences bill took 8 years from the beginning to when it was actually passed, and already it needs to be changed. I mean, that makes me worry that nothing's going to change.
It's certainly, that's exactly the problem, because the minute the announcement is made that there is going to be a new law or there is going to a review of an old law, we already know that the process itself is going to take almost 2 terms of the administration that currently that made that announcement. So it means that we either have a people in government that understands that the review of these laws and all the introduction of the new acts and laws that must come into place cannot be moved with the same pace, because the killing of girls, the killing of women, the killing of old people, and everything else that is aligned to gender-based violence continues. I mean, right now, this week alone, we are talking about the issue of Kwasa, a 19-year-old student of Wits University who was stabbed to death by her boyfriend, who did not want to accept when the girl said, no, the relationship is over from where I'm concerned. How much more must happen for those laws and the reviews of those, you know, prescripts of bills that must come into place that will find women still existing? By the time the laws are coming into place, Stephen, there will be no woman who will be saved by them.
It's important to focus on the law, and we have been. I know in the argument around murder, for example, in countries that have a high arrest and conviction rate for violent crime, they have a low rate of murder, and people talk about the deterrent effect. If you commit a crime and you know you're going to be arrested and convicted, you're going to go to jail for it. You don't do it. The same must surely apply with gender violence. I mean, is the problem that our arrest rate for incidents in which women are killed by men and our conviction rate are just so low? There's no deterrent. The problem maybe lies there as well.
Absolutely. There is a very evident link to the reason why we continue to have the escalating number of gender-based violence cases in South Africa, linked to the fact that where arrests have been made, in less than 2 months, the person is going to be out. Chances are that the person is going to go through the case coming from the same residential place where the victim stays. And there is a clear indication of the fact that as a result of the criminal justice system that doesn't seem to consider gender-based violence cases as serious as it may consider other cases, we're still not going to see the conviction rate also being increasing, because there's no way the conviction can be high where even the arrest on cases that are linked to gender-based violence is at a minimum. But also, this talks to as well, again, Stephen, on the fact that both from a criminal justice system and from the lawmaker's point of view, there is so much that is in disjoint and disjuncture that does not talk into unison. Because you'll find, for instance, that the SAPS has got its own bill that they use, or its own act that they use in as far as criminal justice system deals with gender-based violence. You'll have the Department of Correctional Services having its own approach, which is just makes you not to understand why would you have state organs that are using different law prescripts in dealing with one and the same thing. Where are we supposed to ultimately see the effectiveness? We will never see it.
Oh, Anele, I mean, it makes your heart heavy when we have this conversation, and how many times we've had to have this conversation as a nation. I do want to ask a little bit about alcohol, because it's been banned twice. It's now for sale again. Do you expect a rise in the number of women being attacked because alcohol is now being sold?
Because I hold a view that says, for as long as we think that there can be, an excusable fact that we can link to alcohol as the reason for gender-based violence, it means we're just refusing to deal with issues that we're faced with. Alcohol is just but one measure that the perpetrators of gender-based violence use as a fronting excuse. For instance, where you will hear a person saying, I did not mean to hurt her, it was because I was under the influence. The fact that a person can make a statement of that nature tells you that they knew what they were doing. But indeed, Stephen, the alcohol does have a contributing impact in perpetrating gender-based violence, because most of cases, it has been proven that where perpetrators have consumed alcohol, the brutality, the gruesomeness, the inhumanity with which they will kill or rape their victims is far worse than a situation where a person has not consumed alcohol. But we can't say with surety that alcohol is the only reason that people continue to entrench gender-based violence in our society. There's far more reaching factors, and alcohol is but one.
Okay, so, I mean, it's a very difficult society, we know this, and I mean, many people ask the question, why is our society so much more violent towards women? Why are women so attacked so much more often than in other societies? I mean, no other society has our inequality, and certainly our racialized inequality, but there are other countries that have our poverty. I mean, what makes us so different?
The issue with South Africa is that, first of all, if you will observe, patriarchy is very deep in this country. And one of the reasons why we have seen a rise to effects of gender-based violence, it's because we have become a society of assertive women who have adopted a defiant attitude that says, we will not be boxed by men and who would want us in a particular position or want us in a particular corner. We will contest all spaces of society equally as qualified and deserving people who must be given recognition. So now, the reason, amongst many other reasons, that you find that South Africa has become a society of men that are so monstrous towards women, it's because the men of this country cannot cherish the strong women that are assertive that they have. As a result, it is the contestation of space. It is that patriarchal culture and attitude that says a woman's space is not in the boardroom. A woman's space is not in holding tough and decision-making conversations. A woman's space is where a man decides for her. And we are living in a generation of women, the Aneles of this world, who refuse to be boxed in corners where we will only speak when a man wants us to. So it is far bigger a battle than meets the eye. It's not a relationship issue. It's not a societal family issue. It's a bigger leadership question, because we are a generation that knows our assertiveness. We're a generation of women who understand the value of quality of women leaders. And we are not waiting for men to come and affirm ourselves. So men are resisting that. We are breaking the cycle that generations of women before us were not able to break. So they just cannot accept that they are going to live in a society where a woman's worth is not defined by what a man decides.
Anele, 30 years ago, it would have been, I think, almost impossible for you to say what you've been saying, to come on television and say what you've been saying as a woman. There would have been a response. Someone in the community would have tried to tell you to not speak. The fact that you are now not allowed to, but that you're in a position where you can be more assertive, do you think that's going to change? I mean, we're seeing women taking power in so many ways. Look at the woman the congresswoman who stand up to Donald Trump, for example. I mean, is that changing things? I mean, with that power, maybe violence will change too?
Look, it's a very dynamic subject, but equally, what we are doing is that we are setting the pace of a generation of young women that must rise. And through our fearlessness, they must know that there is no man that will hand over a space and say, this is the leadership space for a woman in the world. This is not just a South African issue, it's a global matter. But all that we need to do as the current generation of women is to ensure that we shape a different mindset of a young girl. We shaped a different mindset of an upcoming activist who must know that her being a woman in society, her seizing power, her seizing opportunities starts with a woman being able to use her voice and being able to understand that the first tool of power for a woman is her voice. That's all that we're doing right now, is asserting and entrenching a permanent, loud voice of a young girl that must rise and rise unashamedly, that must rise and rise unapologetically, that must rise and say, in generations before me, there were Lillian Ngoyi's, there were Toni Morrison's, there were Winnie Madikizela Mandela's, there were Anele Mda's, there were Zulaika Patel, there were so many. So the importance of this for us is that it may not be a struggle that we will win and enjoy the fruits of it, but it's certainly a struggle that we do not want to live and pass the face of this earth having not stood up for those that will come after us. And that, we believe, certainly will change the landscape in as far as how a woman is recognized in society, in South Africa, in Africa, and the world over.
Anele Mda, thank you very much indeed. Really do appreciate your sentiments. Thank you. I just hope that it's not the same conversation next year and that something does shift. All right.